Welcome to Jolly EV. Our Model 3 has now crossed 50,000 miles and is almost 2 years old. It is officially out of warranty. Here are some thoughts I have on the car. My car is a long-range rear-wheel drive premium package, and I picked the 18-inch wheels on this car. It's an early win car, so there weren't many options when I picked the car. I mentioned that this is an early win car, so I was not expecting a perfect car at delivery. Tesla was just ramping up the production on this car, so I had modest expectations for the car. Even so, I was very pleasantly surprised at delivery, and I was also right about having modest expectations. There were several small things that cropped up over the time of my ownership, but that was okay. The service team addressed every one of them, and overall I'm very happy with the car and the service team. One of the most common questions that I get when I discuss this car is about battery performance and how it's holding up. Here I've charged my car to 90% of its capacity. This is typically what I do. You can see on my screen that the estimated range at 90% is 278 miles. So the car is now charged to 100% state of charge. You can see that the estimated range is 311 miles. This is pretty much what I was seeing when I first got the car. But in practical terms, I've not seen any drop in usable range for this car over the 2 years and 50,000 miles. All I can see from an owner standpoint is I'm able to do what I was doing 2 years ago and 50,000 miles ago, even to this day. The other thing is I've not done anything special to maintain the battery. I've used superchargers over 180 times. I've charged the car to 100% dozens of times. I've let the battery deplete to single digits dozens of times, and I charge at home at 40 amps. I've just done what I normally do, and I only charge up to 90% most of the time. I'm doing incredibly well as far as battery goes. So the only thing that I really pay attention to is the on-screen messages. One thing that I've become a big fan of on this car are the seats. Not really the seats so much as the seat material. This car's seen a lot of activity. I've got car seats on this material. I've had orange juice spilled over, milk spilled over. We've been to the pool, bleach water, salt water from the beach. It's seen a fair amount of abuse, but it is holding up incredibly well. Even after all of this use, I'm pretty happy with the material. Just to show you how well the seat material is holding up, this is the driver's side seat after 50,000 miles. It's barely any creasing. There's no cracking at all, and the seat materials looks and feels as new. And all I did to maintain the material was wipe it down with a wet cloth. I mentioned earlier in the video that I had some issues with the car. I want to walk around the car and talk about all the things that I can remember. Most of them are really minor, and I want to stress on that. I would still recommend the car for the way it's built, the way it handles, and the reliability it provides, the safety, all that. But still, I just want to make an honest review and talk about all the things that I encountered with the car, and so you can make a judgment on how much they matter to you. I'm going to try and recollect all the little things that were done on the car. First off, both the headlights on this car were replaced. There was nothing wrong with the actual working parts of the headlights, except that there's a little bit of an accent lighting trim here, and one side was brighter than the other. So Tesla replaced both the headlamps to keep them even. This black triangular trim piece was lifting up and creating a lot of wind noise. So service glued it closer together, and they also repositioned the weather trimming here, and that helped with wind noise quite a bit. Interior of the vehicle, the A-pillar trim pieces on both sides were replaced. They had a bulge. The early cars had a characteristic A-pillar bulge, and the design of this trim piece was improved. It's much firmer now, and that's something that Tesla replaced under warranty. The control stalk here, the black trim piece here was lifting up. I was expecting Tesla to push it down, glue it, make it nicer, tighter, but instead they replaced the entire control unit here. That's something that I was not expecting. There were minor squeaks and rattles early on, and Tesla's team addressed that. One of them was really hard to identify where they was coming from, and I am so happy that they spent so much time trying to identify where that noise was coming from, and they actually got that. I had the characteristics roof crack about 7 months into my ownership, and this roof is new. About 25,000 miles into ownership, I started hearing squeaks when I went over bumps. The control arms on the front were replaced. I believe the problem was with some bushing, but they replaced the whole unit. So inside the trunk area, the lower trunk area, I would see some dampness in those corners after heavy rain. Tesla basically sealed that inside unit, and they made the problem go away. I'm not particularly familiar with what exactly was done. So I know a couple of things had, the design was really improved since I bought my car. The A-pillar issues, the trim piece issues, inside trunk well issues. Tesla learned from early cars like mine, and they improved those issues. So I don't expect those things to come back in newer cars. There was a slight bit of a alignment issue with the trim piece. Tesla addressed that as well. So these are the kind of minor things that I am talking about. The actual car's reliability, safety, and all the other fantastic things about this car, they are an A+. And most of these issues that I'm talking about, they went away with early cars. We can get into the nitty-gritty, but overall, if I have to say, I wouldn't recommend any other car. That's how happy I am with this car. Electric cars are known for their low maintenance, but there's one hidden cost that I discovered. That's with the tires. So the first set of tires on my Tesla Model 3 lasted about 25,000 miles. That's about 15,000 miles less than my typical other cars that I've had. So the first 7,000 miles on this car, I really enjoyed them with spirited driving, and that took about 50% of the tread of this tire. After I discovered that, I kind of realized how much of a dent that might put in my pocket. I eased up on my driving, and since then I've been able to make the tires last about 25,000 miles. There's one good tip that I would say: if you really care about how long your tires last, ease up on the fun and drive in chill mode, and those tires will last you a lot longer. The second set that I have, I expect them to last about 45,000 miles, the way they are wearing out now. After all the years, miles, and experiences on this car, I'm thoroughly impressed. I often found myself comparing this car with other cars that I get in, and none of them even come close. My bottom line advice for anybody who's considering a Model 3 is, go get it. You'd be very happy with this car.